Okay, next on our packed program, everybody. We have you guys. Hello, Patrick. Ludwig? Oh, no, you're not on stage. Dennis, hi. If you want to go over here, apparently I've been told to sit in the middle. Okay, guys, we're going to fit in some questions towards the end of this one, when our clock goes on. So next, we're going to have a very esoteric discussion, are we not, about post-digital business. Now, the interesting thing about this is that people like Nicholas Negroponte have said that the digital revolution is over. Others have postulated that it's only just beginning. So we're going to have two views on this. Firstly, guys, introduce yourselves. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Patrick Meisberger, Managing Director of T-Venture, which is the corporate VC unit of Deutsche Telekom. We're around since about 15 years, have done since then about 180, 190 investments, always with the idea to invest into best-of-breed startup companies in order to first earn money and second, actually leverage them into Deutsche Telekom organizations, so bringing a little bit more than just money to the table. And I think we do that quite successful.
Okay, so we have a VC, effectively. Dennis, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm a founder. I'm the co-founder of Pixray. Pixray is a company that has been around for like 2 years now. We closed a founding round around a year ago. And Pixray is active in the market of digital image recognition, something very technical. To give you an idea what the products are that we are doing, we have solutions that help rights owners and images to track where on the web their images are being used. And also we have solutions for companies that need support in automatic moderation of digital images. That's interesting. For example, Holiday Check is using our solutions to moderate automatically pictures that are uploaded by their users.
Okay, gents, just very briefly, do you have a view on this subject? Patrick? Oh, Dennis.
So, to be honest, it wasn't quite easy to get to grips with that subject because, you know, in order to discuss about post-digital business, you first have to figure out what does post-digital mean, and that wasn't easy for me. So my interpretation of the term was that, you know, we've heard it a couple of times today, digital technology, access to digital technology is so ubiquitous that we don't realize the difference between the online and the offline world anymore. And I went a bit further and checked what brought us to that point, and I'm saying that essentially three things happened.
Okay, before you say those three things, just answer yes or no. Are we post-digital?
No.
Right. Patrick?
No. Technology-wise, we are. Yeah, we do have the abilities, but I think in terms of adoption by the market, we are not there yet.
Right, so it's going to be hard to find a winner out of this debate because both of you agree. But you probably have different nuances on the view, different views on the subject. You set out your view then, Dennis.
Well, as I said, I see like three phases that we went through. The first one is that we connected everything, so we got the infrastructure in place to be connected everywhere, and you know, we changed from being a society that knew the difference between being online and being offline, and I would be happy to say we're in the post-connect era, if you will. The second thing that we did, partially in parallel, is that we digitized a lot of old models. We brought e-commerce online, so essentially we brought old shopping concepts online. We brought a lot of things that we did in the offline world, we simply translated them to the online world. And what we're beginning to see now, and that's why I'm saying we're not in the post-digital era because we're only seeing these developments now, is that people actually change their behavior. Like look at Spotify recently. The technology for that has been around for ages. Music streaming is nothing new. The really new thing about this is not technological. It's the change in the minds of the people that they are now willing to give up ownership and trade it for access to something. And I believe we're going to see a lot of these developments now, that people are changing their economic reasoning very fundamentally. And that's only starting now. That's why we're not post-digital.
You're discussing three areas: connectivity, digitization, and adoption, or let's say paradigm shift, however you call it. Do you think we are at connectivity already there in a kind of post-digital area? Thinking about being a ubiquitous, everywhere connected, and it's part of our day-to-day life without noticing?
That's a bit hard to say. You know, if I look at my life and if I look at the people around me, that you know, a large part of them come from the digital industry and they are in my generation, I would clearly say yes, everyone has a smartphone, everyone is online all the time. I don't know, do you have a different view? Are there areas?
I actually have here already a different view. Of course, we are all looking forward into a post-digital area, but just looking around, I'm not sure. I guess here everybody has a smartphone. Is it? Who doesn't have a smartphone here? Oh.
It's one.
Okay. So your parents...
security.
Your parents.
There's a guy here who doesn't have a smartphone.
Your parents. Who of your parents doesn't have a smartphone? Oh, you see?
All of them.
A few more.
Huge market, which is not taking part in this always on. So connectivity is there if you want to have it, but many people don't want to have it.
Looking at that result, it may be fair to say that, you know, the biggest part of the market is not there yet. So what are you going to do about that?
Oh, good question.
This is great. I don't have to do any work.
Well, it wasn't clear whether you'd show up, so...
Fair enough.
Well, as I said, you know, we all want to see a post-digital area and we're all preparing to get ready for it. But what I believe is we have to focus much more on how we actually can adopt these new technologies and services coming up for the mass market. So what we are seeing right now are a lot of excellent tools, products, geeks for other geeks. Yeah?
I think, well, let's bring it down back to a little bit of reality at the moment. At the moment we've come from a culture of open source, of technology being open sourced, of the internet internet startups really took off when the cost of doing technology in startups plummeted because of things like Linux, Apache web servers. I mean, I remember covering the internet business back in 1895, and back in those days, you know, it cost a lot of money. You need SunSpark station servers. You needed, you know, a lot of corporate technologies. A lot of sites would run off like even Oracle databases, which cost a lot of money. And then we and then eventually, you know, in the sort of late 90s and then early 2000s, we had much more new kinds of ways to launch technology companies and online. Like I said, the costs plummeted because the devices became commoditized. Sorry, the software became free, effectively, and suddenly you got this boom, reimagining, a reawakening of startups in the Web 2.0 era of, you know, 04, 05, 06, but now we're looking at a new age where the devices and the are being locked down again. You know, so we're now talking about an Android world and an iPhone world, iOS world to some extent. And you can see that Apple eventually will merge iOS with OS 10 and Lion and all of those, you know, its desktop operating system, its laptop operating system. And, you know, these guys are going to be the gatekeepers. And Windows Metro, also its new Windows, the new Windows platforms are becoming again, its own ecosystem, and eventually, of course, they'll buy Nokia, or Nokia will just like implode like that because they just, you know, don't know what they're doing. But so we are, you know, there's two strands here. Either that's going to be a good thing and will enable a lot of this, you know, new startups to flourish because it's this level playing field platforms. And everybody knows that, you know, the success of things like Angry Birds wouldn't have happened without iOS and the App Store. But also, the gatekeepers are now even bigger than they were before. Do you think, therefore, that even though we'll eventually have this, like, I'm sure we'll have this wonderful computer, this science fiction lifestyle eventually, where we, you know, brush our teeth and read the news on the mirror and things like that. But all of that is going to be, the back end of that is going to be controlled, and there will be gatekeepers on that in the way that at the moment there is the open web and open source and open standards which allow anybody to create anything.
So over lunch actually, we talked about the question whether there's anything that might be risking Facebook's success, you know, and my opinion is that the fact that they are becoming, along with Apple, along with the Androids, becoming gatekeepers in that function, I think that's the biggest risk they have, because, you know, we came from a very closed garden world. We came out of CompuServe, we came out of AOL, and we got used to this very openness, and I think we appreciate it. And I think people are going to realize very soon what they're giving up by you know, adapting to these app worlds and you know, using those closed garden Facebook applications. I think, you know, we are not seeing it yet, but at some point it's going to be obvious for everyone that we're actually paying a very, very high price for this comfort we're gaining through these, you know, standardized.
I mean, the flip side of that is that people gave control of apps to things, to Apple, for instance, like on iOS devices, on the iPhone and iPad, because the alternative was spyware and malware and annoyware, and, you know, stuff downloading in the background that you didn't know what was going on. So we have, to some extent, submitted our freedom, as it were, to replace it with control.
Yeah, I think there are two aspects of it. First of all, I think we have to watch this movement, whether there's really a threat by one big player taking it all and reversing the open internet into, let's say, a closed shop back again. I think we all don't want to see that. And I believe we have a pretty good chance that this won't happen. First of all, besides iOS, there's also Android, and maybe there's Microsoft coming with something good around as well. And the other aspect is actually the user himself. Who really wants to be locked in by himself? Especially the educated people who are always the front runners. Currently we adopt it, we love it, yeah? Playing around with our smartphones and tablet, everything connected perfectly well, using cloud applications. But let's say the more educated you get and the more you feel yourself, oh man, I'm really fully on Apple, do I really want that? I pretty much believe if it's getting too much, the user will change and will have a counter movement.
How many people in the room have children? So let's talk about not many parents here. It's interesting. What's your views about, if we were going to talk about post-digital business, post-digital world, what's your view about education and nurturing of children in this digital society we're building effectively? Are children being, can education and educational institutions serve in this new environment? Are they built for, let's use this phrase, post-digital world? Are they built structurally for that? I mean, time and again, I hear that educational courses and university courses are basically not really being built. I mean, we're not going to build the future because currently teachers are teaching the wrong things for the environment that is actually happening on the ground at the moment.
You know, I've been saying for a long time that it should be a subject at school, really, to teach children from an early age how they use Facebook, you know, which risks they're exposed to. But I think it's very, very tricky to adapt the education system to keep up with the pace children change their way of using, you know, today's technologies. For a while, I've been thinking I'm a digital native, and because I started using the internet right when it came along. But now I see, when I'm talking to people that are just 10 years younger than I am, that I have absolutely no clue about how they use the internet. So I have no idea how you could change school that way that it would incorporate that knowledge.
Well, I agree. I think the schools or school systems are too slow. They will take a while before they finally can change and really adopt to the new way of digital or post-digital era. But what we will see, they will be forced and driven by our kids. You know, they are growing up in a already kind of post-digital world. My son is 4 years old, and 1 year ago I had a funny conversation in our car when he was explaining my father how the iPhone is working. He said, "Opa, you have to slide this, and then this is YouTube. Yeah, you can watch Winnie Pooh." And all this stuff, my father was just stunned and he didn't understand it. So as a consequence, the kids themselves, they grow up in it, they're fully adopted to it, And they will actually force then also our learning systems to teach the right stuff.
But I think that we're looking at, that is a sort of a nice scenario, but the thing is though, is that kids are growing up learning to go tap and switch on things with their, I'm sure a lot of people saw that video online of the little tiny baby. It was about 18 months old, looking at a normal printed magazine and trying to swipe the printed magazine. It went round a lot. And realising that nothing happened on the printed page, and then of course being given an iPad and going, oh wow, thank. But the thing is, interestingly, in Britain we've just seen the launch of a device called the Raspberry Pi, which is a little credit card-sized little motherboard with some transistors on it, a chip, a small amount of memory, and had a Linux distribution, the simple Linux distribution operating system on it, and it's a smash hit. They cannot sell enough of these devices because schools and kids want to get this thing. It's like being given a little engine or something and plug it into a monitor and learn how to program and learn how to code. Are we not, even though we want to create this post-digital business, this brave new world, are we not going down a dead end by teaching kids just about apps? I mean, it's kind of like teaching children about how to use Microsoft Word without learning how to program Microsoft Word. And that's one of the problems we might face, no?
I don't think you have to be a programmer to live in a post-digital world. I think this post-digital idea actually expresses itself.
Otherwise, but you'll just become a consumer.
Yeah, but I think, in most cases, the post-digital world will not show itself as something digital as such. I think, look at, for example, Drive Now. Do you know this car sharing concept? It's only a fraction of this whole system is a digital component. But I would say, that's a pure play post-digital world concept, if you will. But, you don't have to be a programmer to participate in all that. So.
Very lastly, Eric Schmidt from Google said last year that eventually they want to get to the point where Google doesn't know just what you're searching for, but it knows you're about to search for something, because it's looked at what you're doing online, perhaps via Google Plus, if that takes off, of course, and anticipates what you want next. To some extent, that's kind of the next business, isn't it? Anticipation of wants and desires next, because that's how Google built its search business. Do you think that's a scenario that will be becoming a reality soon? Like, I walk out of here, I need a taxi, and a taxi arrives because the cloud knows that I need a taxi now.
I guess it won't work for all scenarios, but I do believe there are certain scenarios where that can work and it will work. Advertising, we are already here in a technology area where we have retargeting, best technologies, and really get targeted profiles of users, and then.
Time's up. All right, sorry about that. We've got to keep on a tight roll. But does the audience have any questions? Any questions? Burning desires? None. Wow.
Okay. We're just yammering up here about this stuff, so.
All right, so Mike, who do you think won? Who do you think won the hot seat?
Okay, well, okay. Who's in favour of this guy over here? Put your hand up.
Woo! Yeah.
And over here.
Yeah, bit of a balance.
I think it was clear.
Okay, let's try that again. I need more commitment from you people. Right, over here. And lastly. Okay.
Alright, I think
declare
Dennis
the winner.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
I think we had one question. We'll do it again afterwards.